91X Imagine Dragons and Believer at 7:28. Good morning. I'm Tommy. Danielle is here.
Hi.
And we are on our way to getting caller number 9 to give away those Comic-Con passes. But, you know, right in the middle, we've got a very, very special guest joining us in the studio from Game of Thrones. John Bradley is joining us.
Oh, good morning. Good morning. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thanks for making time for us this morning, John.
My pleasure.
I understand this is your 4th Comic-Con?
My 4th Comic-Con in a row, yeah. It's something that you can never fail to get surprised by. You think you get used to it, you come back and you're overwhelmed all over again. It's kind of cool.
Do you ever get a chance to get out and see a bit of San Diego? And if you do you get recognized pretty frequently when you're among the Comic-Con crowd?
Yeah, Comic-Con isn't really the place it isn't really the kind of time and place to see San Diego, really. I mean, we kind of see it all from the inside of cars, and you've got a very beautiful town here.
Thank you.
But you know, we can never really walk very far.
Right.
But you know, I'm determined to come back when it's all over and kind of explore a little bit. I know that some of my fellow cast members, went to the zoo yesterday.
Oh, great! That's awesome.
Yeah, they had an amazing time.
People were like freaking out.
Yeah.
Is that a Lannister?
I think they kind of it's a thing where you have to compete with wild animals for attention.
Well, we get a world-class zoo here, but when we figured out that you're going to be making 91X a part of your schedule this morning,
Yeah.
Danielle just did a crash course in Game of Thrones, got HBO, the whole 9 yards.
Oh,
Yeah,
nice.
I went and got HBO because you know, everyone's talked about Game of Thrones, and I've never had HBO, so I felt so out of the loop on this. So I made the plunge. I did the $16 a month for HBO, and I started watching. And the minute that your character is introduced, and I want to say it's like the 2nd or 3rd episode, they're mean to you.
Oh God, yeah.
They're so mean to you, and they're calling you a coward. And Jon Snow, he comes and he defends you, and he's your friend. And I was just like, I want to be his friend.
Oh, that's so sweet.
And I love your character because it's one of those, you balance good and evil throughout the entire series really, really well.
Yeah, I think he's one of the very, very few characters who acts completely from kind of pure and good motives. Mm-hmm. I think there is darkness within him, of course, because he's had to kind of carry around all of these kind of battle scars, and he's got a lot of psychological boundaries, and he's, of course, got a lot of very kind of crippling self-esteem issues. So there is darkness there, but the thing about Sam is he tries his hardest to be appealing because he's found it so hard to make friends. So he suppresses the darkness within him so much and pushes the best side of himself forward because he considers that to be the most appealing and attractive side of himself. So, yeah, he's one of the good guys for sure.
I love it. And, I love that season 6 ended on such a high note for Samwell. He's happy, such a high note. But in true Game of Thrones fashion, you cannot be happy for too long.
No, God, no.
So, I am so scared to see what's going to happen to Samwell in season 7. I watched the first episode, and I was kind of like, what are you doing? What kind of tricks are you doing over here?
Well, that's the thing about Game of Thrones, the fact that we have a relatively short amount of time to tell this story. I mean, this year we have 7 hours of TV to get through quite a lot of narrative. So people don't normally stay in the same kind of psychological place for very long just because we've not got enough time to let them linger on anything. They're all progressing so fast, and Sam was at such a high at the end of season 6, getting to this place where he's accepted and his interests and passions are accepted. For the first time in his life, he feels he's somewhere he belongs. So you can only kind of go in one direction from there. It's going to be quite a steep downward spiral. And if people have seen the first episode, which started last Sunday, people know just how dramatic a downward spiral that's been so far.
Yeah. I'm nervous.
Yeah.
John, coming in on the ground floor of this show and seeing it grow into what it is today.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about how the show has changed since 2011 and how your character has changed and how people respond to it? Because it's just amazing how it's grown.
It's amazing how it's grown, yeah. And because people don't really necessarily watch TV on TV now.
Right.
A lot of people watch the show in between seasons. So a lot of people are just starting to watch the show like yourself in either now or in the last couple of years. So they have 5-6 seasons to kind of binge watch at their leisure. That's the way I watch TV. And what you do find is with every new season, the anticipation gets kind of more and more intensified. Right. And I think this year we added 50% to our premiere viewership from last year.
Oh, wow.
So that just goes to show you just how kind of just how it builds, how the audience builds, even in the off season.
Yeah.
And we kind of get more and more people involved, and I think the show is popular globally. I think because if you get a show that's set, for example, in contemporary San Diego, 2017, people who live in San Diego 2017 have got a slight advantage over the rest of the world because it's their reality. It's what they see when they walk outside. With Game of Thrones and with fantasy in general, it's nobody's reality. So everybody has to take that intellectual leap, no matter if you live in Tokyo or you live in San Diego or you live in London or wherever you live. It's nobody's reality, so everybody has to invest in it. And it becomes a kind of very unifying thing because everybody has to take that intellectual leap together. I think, but the kind of global success of it was something that we never really anticipated because we were concerned with making it good. I think it's our job to make it good, and how big it becomes is decided by cosmic forces that you can't really control, but we have to kind of make it good, and marketing of course, but we have to kind of make it good before it can be big. So that's kind of our job that we concentrate on.
And you mentioned London, but you are from the north. You're from Manchester.
I'm from Manchester, England, yeah.
So Blur or Oasis, where do you fall on that?
It's always going to be Oasis for me.
Is that
Because Oasis were from exactly the same environment I was from, and other people maybe don't understand the appeal of Oasis to people in Manchester, but if you take a city that was completely kind of ground into the dirt by certain government, and there was a lot of unemployment, and the place was falling to pieces, and it was a bit of a wasteland, if you get emerging from that some working class guys who couldn't necessarily play very well, or they could play well, but they weren't necessarily the best players around.
Could write good songs.
And they could write good songs, and they look like you, and they sound like you, and they look like all your friends, and then they become the biggest band in the world out of the environment that you were born in. That's really inspirational. And I was 5-6 years old when the first Oasis album came out, and you looked at those guys and think, anything's possible. These people who came from 2 miles down the road from me became the biggest band in the world against all odds.
Right.
And that's kind of so inspiring, and that's why they mean so much to people. Manchester makes heroes out of people like them, Stone Roses, Happy Mondays. You know what I mean? They really kind of keep their heroes close to their heart, I think. And Noel Gallagher said famously, the thing about why so many good bands come from Manchester, and he said, well, if you come from somewhere nice like Cornwall on the south coast of England, where it's sunny all the time and there's palm trees and there's ice cream and there's really nice weather, the last thing you're going to be doing, or indeed in San Diego, the last thing you're going to do is rehearse.
Right.
The last thing you're going to, because you've got all these distractions. If you live in Manchester, he says, if you live in Manchester and it's dark at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and it's been raining all day and you've got nowhere to go, you're going to rehearse your band into the ground. And that's why you get all those good bands from not just Manchester, but kind of slightly more run-down places all over the world, because it's their escape route.
It's funny you say that, because that's my reasoning behind San Diego sports teams being so terrible.
I see.
It's so beautiful here. Why
would
would you spend your time practicing?
Yeah, they've got too many distractions. That's what it is.
Right.
John, I know you got a busy schedule this morning, but one last question for you.
Yeah.
I know you're a big fan of the Smiths.
Huge fan of the Smiths.
And you've managed to see all 4 members in different places.
All 4 members in different places. Morrissey is my ultimate. Morrissey is my bae. So I've seen him in concert so many times. I've seen Johnny Marr in concert. I saw Andy Rourke, the bass player, walking down the street in Manchester, and I saw Mike Joyce, the drummer, in a supermarket. So, so I have seen the Smiths, but not together, and in vastly different places. But they're still. I've just heard yesterday they're doing a Queen is Dead deluxe reboot or something.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah.
Which is kind of exciting as well.
There's always some more money to be squeezed out of some of those catalogs. Sometimes.
Oh God, yeah, of course, with remasters and everything. I mean, the Beatles are the kind of specialists.
Yeah, exactly.
And I kind of, I like to keep a lot of those records pure. I don't really want to hear necessarily outtakes and fluff takes and demos, because it takes some of the mystique out of it. I like those records to be preserved in amber as the great kind of records they were. I don't want to hear it going wrong. I've already heard it going right.
Right. The Queen is Dead. That's still a solid album, man. 30 years later.
Oh yeah, it just goes from track to track, and it's so politically, musically, stylistically the Smiths. It's just them kind of encapsulated in one record. But they never released a bad record, the Smiths.
I agree.
And also, the thing that links them so closely to the Beatles is, who are my other loves, is the fact that it wasn't just the records and the albums. They released EPs and singles and non-album tracks in between albums. So not since the Beatles, I don't think, have you had a band who put out so much good stuff in such a kind of short space of time. And you know, the Smiths were together for, 5 years. The Beatles were big for big for 8 years.
Blink of an eye.
Yeah, and you wouldn't believe it. If you go backwards now, from when the Beatles started, it's 2009 to now, and then in terms of records being released, and then that's it. They're over.
And you think about how much the world changed during that time as well.
Oh yeah, but yeah, thanks to them. I mean, the world's never looked back since the Beatles.
Yeah.
Incredible.
John Bradley, everyone.
Yes, thank you
so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
You have made my Comic-Con. Thank you so much.
This has been lovely.
I've been trying to keep my fangirl in right now.
Oh, let it out. Let it out. Oh, there you go.
Just wait until you see the extra cheese ball photo after this. It'll have so much cheese.
John, enjoy the rest of your Comic-Con and come back and see us again sometime.
I'd love to. That'd be amazing. Thank you so much.
It'd be great. John Bradley, everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. 91X.